What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning into the Dynasty Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Coach Dylan, along with my co-host, Coach Charlie and Coach Nick. What's up, guys?
How are we doing tonight?
Not too bad, not too bad. What's up, Nick? Has this not been the best playoff football you guys have ever seen? I mean, the wild card games were phenomenal. The conference championship week was great. I mean, we have the Super Bowl this week. Rams, Bengals. Who do you guys think wins it all?
We haven't gotten a non-competitive game. Every single game has, been at least one possession if it hasn't gone down to the wire. It's been enjoyable. I've actually been glued to my seat, trying to catch every single.
Yeah, it's like every single week or every single game. It's just something new.
Super Bowl's the same. Be a little bit of a letdown if you want to be an absolute blowout.
Yeah, for sure. So we're just talking about the great playoff games we've seen, Nick. Rams, Bengals. Who do you think wins the Super Bowl? We might be having some.
My heart tells me that the Bengals should win, but practice side of me says Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. That's who I'm going for.
The Rams are better.
Oh yeah.
I'm pulling for the Bengals, man. I'm pulling for the underdog. I want to see Brother Joe go out and get one.
I'm going for Rams. I want McVay's my favorite coach in the NFL, and then Stafford deserves it. So all the years he put up with in Detroit, he deserves it.
Matthew Stafford has earned a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, we got another great show lined up for you guys today. First, we're going to look at some news and notes from around the league. Washington finally has a team name. San Francisco is looking for possible trade partners for their quarterback. A couple teams have found their offensive coordinators, and a couple more have found their head coaches finally. Then we're going to look at the Baltimore Ravens in this week's Dissect that team segment. And then finally, we're going to look at some of the 2021 rookie running back class. We're not going to look at all of them, but we'll look at some of them and give our opinions on how their rookie seasons turned out and their outlook for each of them heading into 2022. Let's start off with some news and notes from around the NFL. The Washington football team finally has a team name, the Washington Commanders. What do you guys think about it?
Man, I definitely think that the Admirals would have been a better choice, but I'm not going to judge on them too much, man. If that's the name that they went with, then Washington Commanders it is. I'm sure everybody felt that way when they named a team. Well, why didn't they do this or why didn't they do that? It is what it is at this point. We have the Washington Commanders. I'm on board.
Yeah.
I think they could have, the Commanders is fine. I figure, like Nick said, Admirals definitely would have been a way better name, but who are we to judge? They're still the same football team. They're still in Washington. It's not going to affect their play on the field, so why should it matter?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Moving right along here, 49ers are looking for possible trade partners for Jimmy Garoppolo. You got a couple, actually quite a bit of teams that are looking for quarterbacks this year. Broncos, Steelers, Commanders, Giants, Lions, Buccaneers, Saints, Falcons, Panthers. Where do you guys think he is the best place for him to go?
I said the Bucs. But they have a need for QB with Tom Brady just retiring, and it would be absolute poetry for Brady to retire. And then just like how it was supposed to be in New England, Jimmy G sweeps in and kind of just takes over in Tampa Bay.
That's true.
They got Mike Evans is still there. They could bring back a couple guys. They could find a way to make it work. I think Jimmy G wouldn't be a bad fit. They could still be a playoff team with that defense. They still have a really good defense.
Do you think that would entice Godwin to come back?
I think Godwin would still want to test the market.
No.
If you saw a better team with a better quarterback situation, because Jimmy Garoppolo is not the greatest quarterback in the world. So if I was in Chris Godwin's shoes, I wouldn't necessarily immediately say Jimmy G's here. I want to come back to Tampa.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I totally agree with the last statement there. Jimmy G is not a name that's going to pull people, give up money and give up profitable pursuits just to come back and play for a team that they're not maybe the best terms with. And initially when I first heard about this, I wanted to be like, oh man, Jimmy G to New Orleans, I'm all about it. He'll be great defense, great system. He'll be perfect. And then I remembered that we're dead broke, so there went that.
It's true.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that for me, that kind of puts the Saints right out the window because we can't afford to pay the cooks we have making food for us, let alone pay a quarterback to come in. So I went with the Steelers actually as my pick for this landing spot for Jimmy G. I really, really like the Steelers. I think they have a lot of things in place. They have a good system moving forward. It's good. It's reliable. It's steady. It's time tested. And I think that's what Jimmy G needs is to come in and have everything already in place for him. All he's got to do is step in and not throw interceptions, which, you know, he's a game manager. It's what he's good at.
That's who I picked too. I think he goes to the Steelers. I mean, their weapons are probably the best out of any team other than maybe the Broncos. So I think that they go there. I don't think they like the rookie quarterback route as much. So, do you guys think that the 49ers will be better off with Trey Lance? I mean, Jimmy G almost took them to the Super Bowl. Do you think that they will still be Super Bowl contenders? That's true, two of them. So
I think that they're not going to be as good because Trey Lance really didn't get to play too much this year. He only had a couple games. So I think if they're gonna throw him under center next year, he's still gonna have a lot of growing pains, a lot of rookie issues. Instead, I think it'll essentially be what would be a rookie year. But the Niners have too much talent to also basically just bottom out. So I think they'll be like kind of in the wild card hunt. But Trey Lance in basically a rookie year is not going to be enough to take him anywhere. At least not yet. The potential's through the roof. He's going to be a great two-way quarterback.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that they're going to step in next season and be back in the Super Bowl conversation. But, you know, I definitely agree with Troy. I think that, you know, a wild card playoff berth definitely based solely around the talent of the roster is absolutely not out of the question. And it also puts Lance in a position to not have to rush his development so much. Yes, you have to step in. Yes, you have to go and be that guy now, but you don't have to force balls into windows. You don't have to try to make the big game-winning play every single time because your team's going to carry you through a lot of those scenarios. So I think it'll be a good spot for him to learn.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Sitting behind a veteran for the first year has worked out pretty good for a couple other guys, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. I mean, he didn't sit the entire year, but part of the year. So,
yeah,
those weapons there are just phenomenal, though. I mean, Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and all them. So, it's a pretty good spot for a rookie quarterback to step into. So, but moving right along here, the Buffalo Bills promote Ken Dorsey to offensive coordinator. Dorsey was the QB coach in Buffalo from 2019 to 2021. In 2021, he also became the passing game coordinator for the Bills. He was also the quarterback coach for the Carolina Panthers from 2013 to 2017. As you can see on the slide there, he's worked with two quarterbacks, Cam Newton and Josh Allen. In 8 years, he has produced 6 top 6 finishes at the QB position, with Josh Allen finishing first in the last 2 years. What do you think this does to Josh Allen? Do you think he can become even better than he's been?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I thought this was a great promotion. Quarterbacks really love offensive coordinators who were quarterbacks themselves. I mean, and I know we're going to talk about it briefly, but Trevor Lawrence said the same thing when they hired their guy, that he was a quarterback. He's going to see it through my lens, and I'll be able to see what he's saying through that same lens. So I think this is going to be great for Josh Allen. Like you mentioned, he spent with Cam Newton through some of Cam Newton's up and downs, but also through a lot of his best seasons were under Dorsey. So same kind of sort of play style, that gunslinger kind of run around mobility, get things done in and outside of the pocket. So I think it's going to be a great transition. It should be seamless. It should be easy. It should be simple.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with what Nick had to say there. Dorsey, I think, is going to run a lot of the same stuff that Brian Daboll did when Daboll was, like you said, transition. Maybe we'll see a little more RPO, get Josh Allen moving a little bit because he's really good at that. He's good with his legs. He can only get better. And we've seen him finish first in offensive rating 2 years in a row now. So, I mean, what else can you do? He's great. He's going to keep getting better. He's Josh Allen.
Yeah. They also hired Joe Brady as their QB coach, so he worked wonders with Joe Burrow at LSU in the championship years. So
can't argue with that. That's a great promotion and then a great hire right behind it.
Yep, I agree. So going to move along here, the Jacksonville Jaguars hired Doug Peterson as their head coach. He struggled. He struggled with the QB position. I know that Carson Wentz has had his years of being pretty decent, but his quarterback position has finished under 4,000 passing yards in 6 of the 8 seasons that he's been a play caller. Does this hurt Lawrence, or do you think Lawrence is going to be able to overcome it?
I think this is going to help Lawrence. Like Nick said, Doug Peterson, being a former QB himself, kind of knows what he's had to go through. He's more of a people person, way more amicable, easier to get along with than Urban Meyer. As we all know, he had his own issues. So Peterson was kind of able to help groom Carson Wentz a bit too when Carson Wentz had that great 2017 campaign. And same thing with Lawrence. He had a really bad rookie year, but I think he can kind of help him get on his feet and get situated, and he'll have a better second season than he will his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what if you know me off the top of your head, what were the running games like under Peterson? Was that why the passing game suffered so much, or is he just not good with quarterbacks?
Well, the rushing yards per game, 11th in 2016, 3rd in 2017, 28th in 2018, 11th in 2019, and 9th in 2020.
So all over the board. So maybe he's just struggled. But a clean slate is a good way to start, right? So he's coming in. He's got this rookie who already had a god-awful showing at first season. Very, very underwhelming for what I think all of our expectations were of him, if we're all being honest, right? So he can't get any lower, right? He can only go up from here. And I think it's a great place for Peterson, who stepped away for a year, to kind of come back and get that palate, that taste out of his mouth and try again. And obviously there's going to be some things that they're going to have to work out and change, but him being a quarterback, like Trevor Lawrence said himself on his social media pages and on the Jaguars pages, that is a big factor for Trevor Lawrence, is that this guy played my position. He knows what he's talking about. We can communicate and see things the same way. And then obviously with the Etienne situation coming back, I mean, he can only go up.
For sure, yeah. That's right. He can only go up. I mean, you can't get much worse than what the Jaguars had. So.
Exactly.
Tight ends typically thrive in this offense. Peterson was a big piece of the development of both Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and Dallas Goedert. Currently, the Jaguars don't have a lot of tight end. Who do you guys think they go out and get?
So I looked up this contract, and unless I'm reading it wrong, Zach Ertz is available.
I think he is. I think that they just sent him to Arizona on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, essentially a rental, right? To try to get the team to a Super Bowl. How crazy would it be if you get Ertz back with Peterson again?
Yes, but he did say that Ertz did say that he wants to be back in Arizona next year if they win.
Yeah, but was that before or after Peterson came back into the game?
I believe that was before. So
I'm just saying, I would love to see the two of them back together again.
Yeah.
And he's going warm weather to warm weather, so it's not like they're asking him to go back into the snow.
Yeah.
So that was my pick. I kind of like the nostalgia of it, so I'm a sucker for nostalgia.
Can't rule anything out. I like David Njoku. To kind of fit in that offense. He's one of the better free agents available at the tight end position.
Yep.
He's a good safety blanket. He was underused in Cleveland because Cleveland had 3 different tight ends, and they were more of a run-heavy offense anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think if you gave him a chance in a system and gave Trevor Lawrence a reliable guy he can throw the ball to, since they only have Laviska Shenault right now, David Njoku really thrive. And the Jaguars got cap space. They got over $50 million in cap space right now, and that's before any cuts or reconstructing contracts or anything like that. So they got the room. They should pay a tight end, and it should be David Njoku.
Yeah,
solid.
I agree. I think Njoku was one of the top 3 tight ends in that year with OJ Howard and Evan Ingram, and he was a highly touted tight end at that time. I think that you give him a coach that has proven success with the tight end position, I think he would thrive big time. So wide receivers have struggled big time in his offense. Peterson was in Kansas City the year that they had 0 touchdowns. Yep, 0 touchdowns from the wide receiver position all year long. What does this mean for Chark and Chenault? Or actually, Chark's a free agent, so what does this mean for Chenault?
Nothing good, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yikes.
They gotta figure it out.
Yards, but I'm not touchdowns not looking too hot, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Versus fantasy value for sure.
Oh yeah. And then he uses the committee approach. Typically, it's 2 guys with over 100 plus carries. What do you think that means for Sanders, Scott, and Gainwell?
Are we just not going to talk about Etienne?
Excuse me. What does this do for Etienne? My bad. That was the Eagles anymore. My fault. What does this mean for Etienne?
Wait, did you just say the Eagles running backs?
Yes, I did.
Is James Robinson beginning of next year with that injury?
He's probably going to miss, I would say, probably half the year.
Okay, all right.
So.
And is Carlos Hyde under contract there still, or is he a free agent?
I believe Hyde is a free agent.
Okay. So as of right now, it's Travis Etienne.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Unless they want to bring in somebody to kind of help share the load, because he did say he likes that committee approach like he did in Philly. Etienne will get the lion's share of the carries. We saw what he did at Clemson. He was the 3 down back. He was great. He has a working relationship with Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence is going to rely on him. They work well together. RB1 for me, great dynasty buy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We'll see what happens when James Robinson comes back. Maybe James Robinson could be a trade candidate for someone in need of a running back. Keep an eye out for him. But Etienne's going to be great for those first 6 to 8 weeks or however long James Robinson's not going to be around.
Yeah, and you got some good free agent kind of fill-in running backs that are floating around there too. That could be that kind of relief person. First person that comes to my mind, just because he did so good for us, is Latavius Murray. It is a free agent down there in Baltimore, and with their boy coming back from injury, they're going to be dropping running backs like hotcakes. So I think that would be a good pickup. Give you your kind of your 4th down or your 3rd down kind of meathead to run through and give Etienne some rest.
Yeah, I think that they probably signed one of those guys like a Latavius Murray, at least for training camp. But if just to make sure that Etienne is ready to go and recovered from the injury. But if Etienne takes off in training camp, I think it's probably his backfield for at least the time that Robinson is out. So
yeah, I mean it's his to lose for sure.
Oh yeah. So going move right along here, the Dolphins hired Mike Daniel as their head coach. He's never called plays, but he comes from the the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. He's worked as a run game coordinator and a wide receiver coach. What do you think this does for Tua's development?
He was, besides Brian Daboll, who Miami was interested in before the Giants, this was going to be the next best thing. This was a guy that Tua has said he was hoping he could work with. Mike McDaniel himself has said he's incredibly high on Tua. And I think he has a scheme and a set that can put out there for Miami that will enhance Tua's strengths and sort of what he's meant to be as a quarterback. So I think we're going to see a lot more short passes, some slant routes, things like that to kind of work the intermediate game as well. And McDaniel was a run game coach, so I think we're going to see a lot more emphasis on running the football as well. Maybe set up some play action. And I love this for Jaylen Waddle too, by the way, because Jaylen Waddle does his best work in the short passing game because he is a speedster. We saw it at Bama. We saw him do it this year for Miami. He can take a slant and take it to the house.
Yeah, it's crazy you say the Waddle thing because typically one that has his main receiver, and he's the only one that gets over the 100 target mark. So Waddle is clearly the number one in Miami. So I think it's great hire for Waddle.
Yeah, and I mean Miami's been so high on Tua. That was part of the issue that kind of started to cause a rift with Flores, is that he wasn't so high on Tua. The team was all in on Tua, all about Tua. So this hiring really makes sense for his development, right? They went out, got a guy that Tua was high on, that was high on him, obviously, and wanting to work with him on both ends, and said, you know, why don't you come in and see if we can't fix what we got here. So I think it's going to be great for him.
Yeah, then you see on the slide there, multiple backs each year have gotten over 100 plus attempts, and there has never been a 1,000-yard rusher for them. So do you guys think that they give Myles Gaskin another chance, or do they go out and get some free agents or draft picks at the running back?
They're bringing somebody into that running back room, whether through the draft or free agency, because they routinely showed throughout this year that they really didn't have any trust in Myles Gaskin when they had Duke Johnson getting 20-plus carries in a game and getting yards.
Facts.
Whether it's through the draft, they're not going to spend a first-round pick. I think they do have a late first because they got one from San Francisco. But I don't think they're going to spend early draft capital. I think they'll kind of comb the market and kind of find a complimentary back to work with Gaskin, and they'll have like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, competition breeds excellence, right? So you get competition, you bring in people, you do what you got to do to go, and you get out the best guy. So I absolutely think they're going to bring in, if not one, multiple people through training camp to try to incentivize people to get moving.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other things. New York Giants hire Mike Kafka as their offensive coordinator, and then Denver hires Justin Outten as their offensive coordinator, and Clint Kubiak as their quarterback coach and passing game coordinator. I don't really spend a whole lot of time on these because neither one of these guys are going to be calling plays for their offense. Dabble and Hackett are going to be calling the plays. But what are your guys' reactions just on that real quick?
For the Giants, I'll speak on that since I'm a big Giants guy. I like that for the Giants. Mike Kafka, he did work in KC as their QB coach, working with Patrick Mahomes as soon as he was drafted and kind of helping to build him up to what he is now. So I think that's a great hire for the offense. He and Dabble are going to do some great things together for that Giants offense. I think Daniel Jones will take a bit of a step up. He's obviously not going to be anything close to what Patrick Mahomes can be, but I think he can be a serviceable starter.
I hear you. I'll react to the Denver one. I think, a week or two ago, it was Aaron Rodgers to Denver Broncos. But a lot of their moves are telling me that they're probably going to bring in a rookie running back or rookie quarterback because they're getting all these guys to help develop a quarterback in my eyes. So I'm thinking they go the rookie route now. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be coming anymore.
Man, you don't think Denver's been bit in the backside enough going this rookie route?
Yeah, but they've never really had an emphasis on developing him. It's always been, hey, let's draft him and have him sit behind Peyton Manning, or I just think that there's going to be more of an emphasis on development now.
All right, let me ask you this then. If they're going to go the rookie route, is there a QB in this draft class? Not a great draft class, but is there a QB in this draft class you have your eyes on that you think would be a good fit in Denver?
I've always last couple of years I've been a advocate for the dual threat quarterback. That's what's starting to break out in this league. You got Kyler Murray, you got Dak Prescott, you got Lamar Jackson, you got all these guys. So, I'm thinking Malik Willis. He showed a lot during the Senior Bowl week this week. He can be a good fit. So,
how many of those guys have been to a Super Bowl recently?
I hear you, but they're still breaking out. I mean,
yeah.
And the Super Bowl is going to change because you've lost your Tom Brady, you've lost your Peyton Manning, you've lost your Drew Brees, you've lost Ben Roethlisberger, all them guys.
Yeah.
So, even Patrick Mahomes, though, is dual threat. I mean, he gets a lot of rushing yards every year. So, I think that's where the NFL is swinging to, is the dual threat. Plus, we've been burned with the strong arm guys a couple times in Drew Lock and Paxton Lynch. So, let's get a new type of quarterback in Denver. And then we are aware also of the Texans hiring Lovie Smith and the Saints hiring Dennis Allen. But since it's so new, we wanted to do some research before we react. So we will be reacting to that news next week on our show. And then one last piece, Alvin Kamara was arrested after the Pro Bowl on Sunday. Let's try to stay away from the politics side, but what do you guys think this means for fantasy-wise in New Orleans?
So
probably going to be facing a suspension, which we were talking about beforehand. So he'll be out for a few games, if I had to guess.
I think it's 6 games.
Right, at least. So that would leave Tony Jones and Mark Ingram, since Mark Ingram's still in the contract, in New Orleans. So I think that's kind of going to be a committee push, at least from a first glance, unless they decide to, I don't know how, maybe through the draft, add a running back in the later rounds to kind of help boost the position a little bit. Not great for fantasy. I would just stay away for whenever Kamara's out.
Yeah, I agree. But I actually picked up Tony Jones in the late rounds of my drafts last year. So I'm actually really, really, really looking forward to his development. I hate that it comes at the cost of what it's coming at. But at the same time, I'm really high on Tony Jones. I was last year. I am still. So I think he can do a lot. Fantasy-wise, it's great for him. It's for Mark Ingram, and it's horrible for the Saints in general. I don't know, right? You look at it, at the best case scenario, he gets suspended 6 games. Worst case scenario, he's not on the team anymore. And I think that throws us, like we talked about, throws us into full rebuild. And that's not something I can wrap my head around quite yet.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, that's your news and notes. There's a ton of them, so we covered it pretty good, though. Let's go to move on to this week's Dissect That Team. This week, we're going to do the Baltimore Ravens. They finished with an 8-9 record, 13th in points per game, 22nd in passing yards per game, and 2nd in rushing yards per game. Their offensive line ranked 21st, passing defense ranked 32nd, rushing defense ranked 1st, and they're ranked 19th in points given up per game. We'll start out with Lamar Jackson. Is he an elite quarterback, or is he just another guy?
So, is Dan Marino elite?
He was elite, yes.
So that was my first thought, right? Was like, well, is Dan Marino elite? Was Dan Marino elite? So for me, I think his talent is elite, right? His talent is something that's, and I hate to throw this word out, but generational he's incredible. Right, the things that this kid can do is just amazing, right? But for me to put him in that elite conversation, for me by elite, I mean your Tom Brady's, your Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning's, the best of the best that have ever done it. Those are my elites, right? Mm-hmm. So in order for me to put him in that category, he's got to figure out whatever it is that's keeping him from taking that next step, right? From taking his team from a playoff contender to playoff winners consistently. I don't know what it is that's got him going around, but these playoff games are killing me with him.
I think it's fair to say Lamar Jackson's a special player, but like you said, I don't think elite's quite the right word yet. He hasn't shown he has that like extra step, the grit, like what Joe Burrow has.
Yeah.
Lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl. We haven't seen that yet from Lamar Jackson. They've struggled in the playoffs. But Lamar Jackson is insanely talented. He's a great two-way hybrid quarterback. And I haven't seen anyone affect the game of football like he has since Michael Vick with that special type of talent.
Facts.
I agree.
So is it a talent problem or is it a leadership problem with him?
It might be a leadership problem.
Yeah, because I mean they got all the talent in the world for that roster is stacked, and he still can't quite get him over the hump, right? And I think me and Charlie are saying the same things. When I think of an elite quarterback, I think of someone like, well, let's just throw it around there. We're talking about Rodgers, right? Going to different teams, and automatically, no matter what team Rodgers goes to, they're playoff contenders automatically just by adding him. They could do nothing else and add Aaron Rodgers, and automatically we're going, all right, they're going to the playoffs. Because Rodgers is elite. He is the difference maker. He can win you 6 or 7 games by himself. I don't think Lamar is there right now.
I hear you. I think this year is going to be big for him. I mean, if he goes out and leads him to the playoffs and gets some wins, I think you can probably throw him in the elite column. But because I hate to make excuses for players, but before it was they had no weapons. Then they went out and got Marquise Brown. They went out and got Rashad Bateman. So they have weapons now. Last year it was, the running game has taken a shot with J.K. Dobbins and the other guy there, I can't remember his name, getting hurt. So they had no running game. All right, there's your excuse. No more excuses now. I mean, he's got to go out and he's got to put up numbers and he's got to lead that team to the playoffs and win some playoff games.
What year of his contract is he in? Did he ever get an extension yet, or is he still on his rookie deal?
He's if
Let me check
they're
here.
going to decide whether or not to pick up his 5th-year option, which they will, but
Lamar Jackson is under contract. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2023.
So, man, he's got to get out there and show that he's worth keeping. I mean, his talent is worth keeping, but he's got to show to the fan base and to the team ownership that he can get them over that hump. So I agree with you, I think this is going to be a big year for him.
I agree because their backup, again, he's
Tyler.
What's that? Their backup.
Yeah, he had a good season and relief of
Tyler Huntley.
Jackson. Yeah, Huntley.
He went out and he balled out.
Yeah, he did. He did well.
If Jackson doesn't put up numbers and lead them to the playoffs and some playoff wins, I mean, give the kid a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Phillip Rivers situation, right? Phillip Rivers was always a great quarterback, always good, always managed his team well, but couldn't ever quite get to that next level. And I think that really held San Diego back for a long time.
Yeah. Talking about Mark Andrews, is he the tight end 1? Or is Kelsey still there?
Well, are we basing that on Gronk retiring too? Or are we just going to say Gronk's retired as he had not officially come out of that yet?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say Gronk is the number 1, though. I mean, I would say probably Kelsey, Waller, although Waller had some issues. So Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, and Kittle, I'd say probably are your top 4.
I still think Kelsey is the number 1.
Yeah.
He's got the track record to prove it. He's been consistently a tight end 1 for years now, and he's been working. It helps that he's been able to work even with Alex Smith, and he's been able to do it with obviously probably the greatest quarterback right now in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing on Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a very close second for me. If we were basing this a little longer term dynasty wise, you're absolutely going to give me Mark Andrews because Mark Andrews is only 26 and he's got plenty of years left ahead of him. Whereas Travis Kelce is going to be entering his age 33 season. So you're kind of wondering, how much does he have left? But
yep. Tight ends typically fall off at the 33, 34 year old mark.
Kind of getting to that point. Right now,
Yep.
Kelce hasn't shown any signs of declining. So I'm going to keep him at the 1 spot for now.
Yeah.
I would full-heartedly agree with that. I think Kelsey's kind of been the textbook for tight ends since, I can't even think of the last tight end who's had seasons like this. But
Gates probably.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Gates or Gonzalez.
Yeah, Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Dynasty wise, do you guys go Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts?
Oh, that one's tough, man. That one's tough. I mean, you want to say Pitts right out of the gate because he's just so talented and he's so young and he has so much potential, but you just don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be in Atlanta.
I was just going to say that.
Yep.
We know that Mark Andrews is going to have Lamar Jackson with him, and Lamar Jackson likes throwing to Mark Andrews. So we know what we're getting with Mark Andrews. We're getting a bona fide tight end 1 year in and year out, barring any type of injury. Kyle Pitts is tantalizing. He's incredibly young. He's got he's got a decade plus ahead of him potentially, which is very tantalizing. But who's going to be throwing him the ball after Matt Ryan leaves? We don't know if he's going to like throwing the ball to a tight end or not. So that gives Andrews the edge for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the cost is the same for both of them, you can give me Andrews all day.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if this was just kind of a fluke year for Andrews. I know he's been good, but he's never been this good. He scored 24 points more than Travis Kelce, and then a full 4 points higher per game than the third best tight end in Dalton Schultz. So we'll see if it's just a fluke or if he continues it. So, well, we'll move on to the free agents to re-sign. Who you guys got for pending free agents?
So they don't have too much cap space right now. I was checking spot tracking over half of them at a little over $8 million, I believe, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, that's 5.8, so not a whole lot.
Cap's going to increase this year, which will give a little more space, and I think we'll see some cuts and restructuring of contracts that'll open up some room as well. I would like to see them bring back Calais Campbell. I know he's old, but he's still showing that he can be a good run stuffer in the middle of that defensive line. I think you said earlier, Dylan, that they were the number one rushing defense, and play to your strengths.
Yep.
Bring back the guys who helped make that possible. I think Brandon Williams is a free agent as well. If you can maybe get him on a cheaper deal as well to help stuff the run, good interior defensive lineman. They don't have too many primary free agents they need to bring back. They have a lot of guys under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my research kind of yielded the same information. I looked at Campbell and I looked at Sammy Watkins were the two that I really looked at. A backup running back, maybe, depending on who you want to bring back and how much it's going to cost you, just because you had so many running back injuries this season. I think you get a little nervous there and you want to keep a few extra people on your roster just in case. But I looked at Calais Campbell and I looked at Sammy Watkins were the two that I was really kind of looking at. But yeah, there's not a whole lot that they don't already have locked up.
For sure. I'm going to go with Patrick Ricard, their fullback. I think that they had the number 2 ranked rushing offense. So I think he was a big part of why they were number 2. So I think bring him back. He's fullback, so he's not going to cost all that much money. And then Anthony Averett, their cornerback. He had 3 interceptions, 22 pass defenses, and 101 tackles. So he's not going to be their number 1, but I think that he could definitely be a 2-3 type cornerback. So looking at free agents to target, their biggest needs are offensive tackle, defensive tackle, cornerback, offensive guard, and safety. I showed that they have $9.8 million in cap space, but anywhere between 8 and 9. Who you guys got for free agents target?
So I think they should get Tyrann Mathieu for the safety position. He can be. He's like a really good player. He's a ball hawk as well. I think he could kind of be a very light version of what Ed Reed was for the Ravens back in his heyday.
Wow, it's good. It's good comparison.
The secondary needs help. Like you said, safety is a bit of a need. I think they will have Chuck Clark and not much else.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a good fit. And then another name I have, not one I thought I would hear, but I think Allen Robinson could be someone I see the Ravens going at. He's a good route runner. He's got great hands. We know Hollywood Brown has had his issues with drops in the past. He's kind of like a burner who can get down the field, but maybe to have someone more of a safety blanket, someone kind of in the middle of the field, shorter routes, who you can trust to catch the football. Allen Robinson can be that guy.
For sure.
So I think I went the same approach. I really wanted to focus on their DBs. I feel like that's where their point of weakness was and where they're going to lose some people. So I really focused on DBs. 2 names I'll throw out for some cornerbacks is Davis from Tampa Bay and Williams from the Rams, just thinking that they're the kind of strapped at the cap and maybe can work a deal with one of these guys. And then the big shot I took was, hopefully I'm saying this name right, but Ogunjo from Cincinnati, the DT, the defensive tackle. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. But again, they're cap strapped, so that might be a bit of a reach for him. But if they could, I think that would be a great hire and a great addition, and losing Calais Campbell as well if they can't bring him back.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I went with, if they couldn't bring Calais Campbell back, Malik Jackson.
Ooh.
He had kind of a down year with the Browns, so you might be able to get him cheaper. But he's always been a good run stopper especially whenever he's with the Broncos. So I'd like to see them bring him in, and then Vernon Hargraves with Cincinnati. I just think he'd be a solid. He had a good year for Cincinnati, so he'd be a solid addition to the secondary in Baltimore. So, going into the draft prospects to target, they currently hold the 14th pick in the draft. Who do you guys think they select?
If one of the top offensive linemen is there, I think I kind of like them to see them go in that direction, because they were a bottom 10 offensive line unit this year. If they can get someone like Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, who I think hands down was the best pass blocking offensive lineman in college football this year, that would be a great get. Or if they could get Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, a generational center prospect that we haven't seen in a very long time. I think those would be two great things. Just a matter of whether they're going to be there at pick 14.
No.
Yeah, so I went with Bernard Raymond or Darian Kennard.
All right. Did you guys watch the Senior Bowl at all?
I did not know.
No. I did not either.
There's a guy on there, Trevor Penny, out of Northern Iowa. Some of the videos that they were showing on throughout the week, him going one-on-one with defenders, he was knocking them on their butts, just straight up destroying them. I think that he would be a great fit for them. He's one that kind of has a temper, so they got to get that under control a little bit. But he'd be a great addition to keep them the number 2 rushing offense in the league. So I will go with him, and then Zion Johnson is another one out of Boston College. He can play guard, he can play tackle, so he'd be versatile for them on the offensive line. So
yeah, and Harbaugh is not the kind of coach that puts up with anybody's attitude. So if anybody can calm a poor attitude down, it would be Harbaugh.
Yep, I agree. Any possible contracts to restructure? I know you mentioned something earlier.
I just had 2 contracts. The Ravens generally manage the cap pretty well. I'll give their office credit for that. Both in the cornerback room, actually. Tavon Young, he's getting paid $9 million this year, and Marcus Peters, who was out most of the year with an injury, is getting paid $15 million. I think if they should probably do what they can to bring those numbers down a little bit. If it means tacking on an extra year to lower the hit a bit so they can maneuver a bit in free agency, I think that would probably be one of the better ideas.
For sure. I think Marcus Peters, definitely. He's getting up there in age, so he's got to do something about that contract.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken.
No. And then any possible coaching changes you'd like to see? I'm going to throw out, if this going to be widely people not liking it, but John Harbaugh cost them 2 wins this year by going for it on 4th down.
Oh man, going straight for the head coach.
I like him, but the Ravens would have been in the playoffs this year without those 2. If they won, I get they still have to win the game, but they went for 2 to win the game in the 4th quarter. Those types of moves right there make or break a coach. So I think they could be looking at somewhere else if he does it again this year. But
I wonder, one thing I was thinking of, if they do shake up maybe the offensive line coaching as well,
yeah,
because they didn't have the greatest production out of their O-line this year, even though I thought they had some decent pieces. They got Orlando Brown, who I thought, was one of the better tackles in the game. And Kevin Zeitler's a proven vet who's been doing at least a solid, if not spectacular, for a very long time. So to kind of see this level of foreplay from an offensive line, I thought it would be at least the middle of the pack.
Yeah, the Broncos just released Mike Munchek also. So he's a widely liked offensive line coach around the league. So now would be the time to go out and get him.
And you've got some really good free agents, offensive linemen that are coming out and coming available that you might be able to reach out and get in contact with too if you're trying to fix your O-line.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a matter of making the cap room to sign one of those guys. The offensive team, even if they're mediocre, like the Nate Solder contract the Giants gave him, they get paid a lot.
Oh yeah, and they earn every penny.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is a good year for offensive linemen in the draft too. This is one of the better years recently.
I feel like the last couple years have had some solid O-line picks.
Yeah, because 2020 you had that big four with Wirth, Wills, Becton, and Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah. So another good draft class. So all right. And then Eric Costa there is their GM. So moving right along, that is this week's Dissect That Team segment. So we'll go and move along and start with our evaluation of the 2021 rookie running back class. Start with Najee Harris. 307 attempts, 1,200 rushing yards, 3.9 yards per attempt, 7 rushing touchdowns. Added 94 targets, 74 receptions, 316 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. He finished 4th in standard and 3rd in PPR. And the Steelers had the 26th ranked offensive line. First of all, let's go ahead and give the reaction on his year.
Yeah.
I mean, 94 targets. That was what brought the Big Ben more than anything else.
Yeah.
For 74 catches, you think you'd have more than 3 receiving yards.
Yeah.
So you could tell Najee Harris was kind of getting dumped off behind the line of scrimmage and just getting tackled for a loss for a healthy chunk of the time there. And with the 26th ranked offensive line, that certainly doesn't help him find too many holes. So for him to be able to, still, get 1,200 yards and have 10 total touchdowns, that's impressive. I think he could be due for some positive regression in that area, if anything else. Because besides the quarterback position, offensive line is going to be somewhere that the Steelers are going to definitely need to address. Because it was brutal watching the Steelers. Watching Ben Roethlisberger just not be able to move behind center as all his offensive linemen just keep getting pushed back into the pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Unfortunately, he was kind of in a, for lack of a better term, he's kind of in a dying system, a dying era, right? Right at the end of that Big Ben time. And I mean, let's face it, Ben over the last 2-3 years hasn't been the Big Ben we knew him to be. So unfortunately, he kind of hit a dead spot where his quarterback was aging out. His O-line is suspect, and that's saying it lightly. So, he did the best that he could. And honest to God, looking at these numbers, it's a lot better than I thought he was going to do. So I think he had a great season and proved why he was picked where he was picked, and that he's going to be a game player moving forward for sure.
Yeah, because even with a poor QB situation, a poor offensive line going forward, he's shown the ability to produce. So his dynasty value is not in question. His fantasy value is not going to be in question. You can still go out and draft him or keep him, whether you're playing in a dynasty or redraft. He's going to give you value.
Correct.
Do you guys go after him in the first round next year?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. I think he was better than the 3.9 yards per attempt. like I said, there's no holes for him to run through. So I think whenever they get a new quarterback that's able to stretch the field a little bit, the receptions come down, the targets come down. But you might see a lot of the rushing yards go up, or possible touchdowns getting a better quarterback in there. So
yeah, and
positive regression is coming.
Yeah, the fact that he only dropped 20 of those passes, even though he knew he was going to get smacked behind the O line, like Charlie is saying, is it tells you something, right? Because a lot of players that just get smacked behind the line and know that that's what's going to happen, they stop catching those things, right? They stop putting themselves through that, and the fact that he just kept fighting it, knowing maybe, hey, one catch, I can break it and go. It says something about his character. So,
yeah. I know that they just last year was their offense coordinator's first year, and I wasn't paying all that much attention to the Steelers and how their offense was ran this year. But was the running back screen a big part of their offensive game plan, or is it just that's their check down and that's where he was going?
I think a lot of it was the checkdowns. Right, Ben's getting rushed, getting pushed, getting shoved, getting touched, and he's trying to get rid of the ball to avoid the sacks. And like Travis said, it just ended up in Harris's hands, and he tried to do the best that he could, and obviously that didn't lead him very well.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe it was a big part. The screen was a big part of their offensive game plan, and they might look at it like the Saints did with Kamara or something like that. It could just be he's going to get a lot of targets every year. So, but we'll see. Moving on to Javonte Williams. He finished with 203 attempts, 903 rushing yards, 4.4 yards per attempt, and 4 rushing touchdowns, while adding 53 targets, 43 receptions, 316 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. He also had 2 fumbles, so that might be an issue. But he finished 18th in standard, 17th in PPR, and their offensive line ranked 19th. There's going to be a new QB in Denver. We'll start with that. How do you think this affects Javonte?
This is a guy I absolutely love. He's a guy that I've been trying to get my hands on. I'm of the belief that Melvin Gordon is going to seek an opportunity elsewhere, maybe with the Chiefs, because their running back situation is kind of in question with Clyde. I can see that. And I think that's going to give Javonte Williams all the opportunity in the world to be an elite running back in this league, and he's shown it. In the one game where Melvin Gordon didn't play, Javonte Williams went off for almost 200 scrimmage yards, and I think he had like 7 catches out of the backfield. He has elite receiving ability, and he has great agility. He finds the hole between the tackles, and when he finds open space, he can go. I was watching a highlight from the game where the Broncos kind of upset the Cowboys this year, where Javonte Williams was smothered by like 3 different guys, but he somehow found a way to kind of like worm out of that and break free for like another 15, 20 yards. It's remarkable.
He's extremely good.
Not a lot of guys can do that. It's special.
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I'm buying him. I'm drafting him early. He's a top 5 back for me. And even if for some reason Melvin Gordon comes back, I still like Javonte Williams as a top 15 running back, because I think that they've seen what Williams can do, and they'd be willing to do more like a 70-30, 60-40 type of share, with Williams getting the Lions' share of those opportunities.
Yeah, I totally agree. Top 5, you had me squirming a little bit, but top 15, I couldn't agree with you more. Even if Gordon comes back, Gordon leaves, Gordon stays, it doesn't much matter. This kid's proven his worth. He's proven his ability. And I think that to ignore the show that he put on this year would just be a slap in the face to him. So I think that they're absolutely going to give him the opportunity. I think that his fantasy impact with a new quarterback coming in, it only brings him higher, because what does every rookie quarterback or new quarterback to a system need to rely on, right? They need to be able to rely on their wide receivers. They got those, cool. And then the next thing is they need that security blanket, whether it's a tight end or a running back. And for them, they got the running back. I think Williams is going to be a wonderful security blanket for whatever quarterback, rookie or otherwise, shows up, and that's only going to help his fantasy value.
Do you think Williams is the security blanket, or do you think Fant's the security blanket?
I'm sorry.
Can you say that again?
Do you think Williams is the security blanket, or do you think Fant is the security blanket?
Williams.
Yeah?
Yeah, Williams.
No.
So I had a hot take for this year. My hot take is that Javonte Williams finishes this year as the RB1 in fantasy.
Ooh.
I'll take that for my Denver Broncos.
I think Gordon's gone. Like I said, he's going to get the opportunity, and especially if they get a proven quarterback or even a rookie one, they're going to want somebody to rely on, someone who passes out of the backfield, someone who can get the lion's share of carries out of the backfield. I think he's going to get every single opportunity to produce, and he's going to take advantage. I think he'll be this year's Jonathan Taylor.
Ooh.
It's possible. I mean,
Quote it now.
Could he be a better version of Aaron Jones? Also,
I like that. That.
He's definitely better at breaking tackles.
I don't have anyone like AJ Dillon hoarding any.
I'm excited for him. I as a fantasy fan, I hope Melvin Gordon doesn't come back. But as a Broncos fan, I kind of hope he does, just because that makes our running game that much better. But Javonte Williams is a stud. He's probably the best back in the league at breaking tackles already. He had a ton of them.
Hey, now I know Kamara is kind of suspect right now, but you can't do that to Kamara now.
Breaking tackles, though?
Yeah, but dude, what do you mean? Come on, Kamara bounces off people. People try to touch him, and he's like a greased-up chicken running around. Come on now.
I think at breaking tackles, I'd still take Javonte Williams. Now, receiving, Kamara. Cool. I'll go Kamara with the receiving role. But moving right along, though. Also, Nathaniel Hackett, new head coach, he targeted running backs. I know that wasn't his offense, but Green Bay targeted running backs a lot in the passing game. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't even know who Aaron Jones was until he started getting those. So if Hackett was any part of that, then yeah, Javonte Williams, it all bodes well for him.
Yep. Move on to our next guy, Elijah Mitchell. Finished with 207 attempts, 963 rushing yards, 4.7 yards per attempt, 5 rushing touchdowns, while adding 20 targets, 19 receptions, 137 yards, and 1 touchdown through the air. This guy was on pace. Okay, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, this guy was on pace for 319 attempts, 1,488 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, 31 targets, 29 receptions, 211 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. Those are some pretty damn good numbers.
Yeah, especially doing it by committee, which we know San Francisco loves.
Yep. You finished 24th in standard, 26th in PPR, and they had the 3rd-ranked offensive line. Go ahead, Charlie.
So I think they're going to want to see what they have in Sherman, because he didn't really play at all, had his issues. So they're going to want to see what they have in him. But that being said, I think Eli Mitchell has more than earned the opportunity to be the starter coming into this backfield next year. Plus, Raheem Mostert's a free agent. He's going to go elsewhere. So I like what Eli Mitchell did this year. I like his ability to produce going forward. It's just a matter of I kind of want to finally commit to having just one running back as opposed to doing his usual committee approach.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I also agree. I agree with every aspect of what you just said, right? It is going to be a committee. I don't think that the coaching staff are going to break from that. It's worked for him for so long. So why fix what ain't broken? But he has absolutely earned a chance to go out there and show that he deserves that 80% or that 70% share of what goes on there. The kid, I mean, he's a monster, absolute monster. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him come back, seeing what he can do. It's always interesting when you get an injured player. You want to see how they return to the field with that injury in mind. So that's going to be a factor for me. But I think he's absolutely earned the opportunity to go out there and put on a show.
Yeah, I just hope that the targets go up for him. I mean, 20 targets is not a lot. He caught 19 of them. So he has a good catch percentage there. But like I said, if he's on pace in the rushing game for 319 attempts, almost 1,500 yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns, if you can increase that receiving role to up to close to 500 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns, I mean, you're looking at top 10 back right there easily.
Well, yeah, and I think you could easily see it because Lance is going to need those checkdowns. He's going to need those things. You know, he's going to hold on to that ball a little longer than he probably should. Those wide receivers are going to get out and out of his depth or his target ability, and he's going to need to check it down. And I think that's where Mitchell fits in.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's going to be a reliable.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100% with that. Cool. So let's move on then to Michael Carter. He finished with 147 attempts, 639 rushing yards, 4.3 yards per attempt, 4 rushing touchdowns, 55 targets, 36 receptions, 325 receiving yards, and no receiving touchdowns. He finished 29th in standard, 29th in PPR, and 11th ranked offensive line. He was the primary back in 2021, far and ahead of Tevin Coleman, but he still only received 147 attempts. Do they trust him to give him more work, or do they continue the committee approach?
If I'm the Jets, I like what I saw. Michael Carter showed more than enough talent to kind of earn the first crack at being. I don't know who else there would be. He should start next year. That's basically it. He's a guy. I think Zach Wilson, 55 targets, shows that much. He can get. He has the passing chops to work out of the backfield, and I think he'll be in for some positive regression in the touchdown category as well. The Jets offense as a whole just kind of struggled this year. Zach Wilson was going through his rookie pains, so they weren't. There was a lot of turnover. Though Michael Carter lost some opportunity that he might have otherwise received. And I think that with Mekhi Becton coming back healthy this year, he's an absolute mauler in the run game. That's going to open up just even more holes. And if the Jets decide to draft somebody, they have 2 top 10 picks. If they go and get one of the great offensive linemen, that's just going to make things even better for Michael Carter. So I like him. I think he'll be the starter this year.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He was one of the very few bright spots and what was a struggle of a season for that whole team as far as his first-time people, the head coach, the quarterback, him, and everybody else on the team. So I thought that Michael Carter was a bright spot for the Jets last season. Did he struggle? Yeah, sure. So did everybody. But I thought he showed more than enough to carry the workload into next season. I think he's only going to go up.
Yeah, I think the Jets continuing to get weapons for Zach Wilson only helps Michael Carter, because right now the defense is going to stack the line against the Jets. So you get some receiving threats that the defense has to worry about. It's going to open up a lot more holes for Carter going forward.
I agree. Totally agree.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to our last back that we're going to talk about, Travis Etienne. Did not play in 2021. He suffered a Lisfranc injury to his left foot on August 23rd. Some other notable players that have suffered this injury. Le'Veon Bell suffered the same injury in 2013. Next season put up 1,217 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, 83 receptions, 854 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air. Darren McFadden in 2021, then put up 707 and 2, and then 42 receptions, 25. That's a typo. 250 something receiving yards and 1 touchdown. And then Brian Westbrook back in 2005. And his next season, he put up a pretty good season, 1,200 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, while adding 700 receiving yards and another 4 touchdowns. So can he come back from this injury?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Lord, yes.
Okay. With James Robinson going down with the torn Achilles, is this his backfield now?
He's the guy.
Yeah, 100%.
We talked about this earlier. They're going to bring in someone to kind of help ease the load a little bit since he is coming off that big injury. Don't want him getting hurt again, but he is going alpha back for as long as Robinson is gone.
Yeah.
With that injury.
All right. Well,
yeah. I like Etienne a lot. I liked him when he was in Oregon. I liked him when he was playing for everybody else. Clemson, excuse me. Thank you. I liked him a lot in college. So I'm really, really excited for him to come out here. And I was really excited to see him, especially with the combination of him and T-Law. But we'll finally get to see that combination, that duo play out. So
yeah, this is a guy that put up 7.2 yards per attempt in college at Clemson. And that's a ton of yards per attempt. I mean, he had over almost 5,000 yards rushing in 4 years. Added another almost 1,200 yards in 4 years through the air. 78 total touchdowns. So the guy's got a ton of talent. It'll be interesting to see how Doug Peterson uses him. Does he use him more as a receiving or
with Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah. Little side note here: the running back position under Doug Peterson gets anywhere between 15 to 20% of the target share. So that's a healthy percentage of targets going to the running back position. So hopefully we see a lot of attempts and a lot of targets going his way next year. So, but we'll go and wrap it up. I'll do it for us. Next week we're going to look at the last team in the AFC North for our Dissect That Team segment, and then we'll also look at the rest of the 2021 rookie running back class. In upcoming episodes, we're going to look at some rookie profiles so that we can prepare you for the draft coming up in 2022. So be sure to keep tuning in, listening to us. We got some good content coming your way. So, but we want to thank you very much for tuning in, and we appreciate everyone's support, and hope everybody has a good week.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.